Hey, welcome to Musings episode number 296. We are live. Unless you're watching this on a replay, then we're not.
Very true. Very true.
So, hey, we're almost to 300 episodes, man. I
Believe.
know the question everybody's asking is, how in the hell these two like each other still? Well, we tolerate each other.
It's called distance.
Yeah, we really only see each other about once a week, and this is it right here. So,
Unless we're doing shows.
Yeah, we're doing shows, which we did over the weekend, Great Lakes, up there in the Macomb County, with the secret snowstorm that wasn't supposed to be that showed up anyways. So
yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. I was like, woke up, Scott. I see a picture of Scott posting his car covered in snow, and I'm like, what in the world? Open up my window because I stayed up there at the hotel, and it's like, no.
For sure.
Yeah.
But can you believe it's March 1st? Crazy.
I know, and we are hitting the get ready to hit spring and all that fun stuff, and so it's gonna be looking for a different thing here. So there we go.
We're just pulling up our pages for people that are wondering.
It's funny is we've had a mild winter with a lot of snow. We had a nasty ice storm last week, and those that got hit by that. Hope we got your power back. I know there's quite a few that hadn't as of the other day, but I haven't kept up with it since yesterday. I was busy working. Monday was a busy day for me with people replenishing the food they lost. And then even though I didn't plan on working yesterday, I had a few good regulars. So I was out a few hours yesterday shopping some orders and get people stocked up on their food. I figured this weekend will be busy for a lot of that. Though we're supposed to potentially get another storm on Friday. Right now, they have no idea what it's going to hit or not. They're like, it's either going to go north and we'll get mostly rain, or it's going to go south and we're going to get socked in with some snow. And I'm like, okay, fine. Make up your minds, people,
Yeah. Well, it's got to be, I do feel, we give a lot of grief to weather people, but I do feel bad for them because this area, the Great Lakes give us this huge buffer of air. Yeah. So it is hard to tell whether, a storm system can be moving right at us and suddenly swerve. And a lot of times they'll swerve south to Ohio and they get a lot of times the worst weather because the warm air above the lakes buffers us, and I got to imagine the weather people here like absolutely hate weather people in like San Diego where 99% of every day is the same weather forecast.
It's like the good place weather. It's a high of 72, low of 72. It's perfect, no humidity. So
right. Although California did get hit with a blizzard this last week.
Yeah, LA County got the first one in like 80 years or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm sure they had no clue what to do.
Yeah. Hey, Dave. Got to see Dave at the Great Lakes
Comic-Con. Hello, Dave.
Talk to Dave, and when he's got stuff to promote, he may come on, pop on for a bit and talk about that stuff. Fellow comic creator out there hustling, trying to get it done. So good to see you, Dave, man. Enjoyed talking to you for a little bit over the weekend. I talked to him and Terrell, and then talked to Terrell for a while there on Saturday morning.
Terrell too.
Terrell's a great guy, and that's something he's got a day job mostly. So I told him, I said, well, if we want to do a thing, we may do a nighttime interview podcast with him because he's got a lot of cool stuff going on, doing some Kickstarters and stuff like that too. So gotta like help supporting the local creators that we know, friends. Anybody else, we charge. So
for sure.
Oh yeah, so hey, let's knock out some ad reads real quick, get this done, and I'll start off with Loringer Family Chiropractic Center, PC, located in Belleville, Michigan, and Dexter, Michigan. They take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient, offering on-site digital X-rays, massage therapy, orthotics by foot level, long-living essential oils, aromatherapy, full line of vitamins, all in a family-oriented environment. Give a call 734-697-4244. You can visit them online at Loringer Family Chiropractic. They're also at Facebook, Loringer Family Chiropractic Center PC. They have 753 likes. Why don't you make it 754? So we'll go in there and like them some more. They have more followers than likes, which happens a lot. And then, of course, has their phone number, address, as well as emails. You can definitely give them a call. They got all that cool stuff going on. They're going to be announcing them of newer things. They've been doing a lot of training stuff I can't talk about because I don't know anything about it. But eventually they'll be talking more about that online as well as in their offices there. As laws have changed a little bit to offer more services through chiropractic. And I can tell you this, after a day like Monday, it rained pretty much all day, and I was soaked to the bone because I was out working all day. It was nice to get adjusted yesterday and get myself back in alignment because that cold rain threw me out considerably. Plus, after sitting at a convention for a weekend, that throws you off too. So, all right, and then we also got
Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying experience, we never forget at the core, this is a people business, and we really value our relationships with our clients. One example that I got a call the other night, got a client from about a year and a half ago. We helped sell a family member's house of theirs who had passed away, and they've become like friends. They call she's an elderly client of ours who lives out in Canada, and every now and she's almost like the grandmother I never had. Well, I had the grandmother. Don't get me wrong, but another one, and she'll call like periodically and just talk for like a half hour to me just to catch up, and she also follows up with Jill also regularly. So she's always calling us and seeing how we're doing. So we do truly mean it when we say we value our relationships with our clients. So up on the screen here, this is my HomeSnap page. HomeSnap is a real estate app you can download. I posted the link there in the comments. So when you go there, scroll down to this area here, right here. It says download the app for free, and then you type in your phone number and it will text you a link that you can download, and that'll link you right to my real estate page. You can set up your own searches in here, keep track of stuff. You can ask me questions. The really fun thing about this app is if you're out traveling, let's say you're thinking about getting a second home or a home up north, a cabin, or you just like browsing what's happening. You're on vacation in Florida and you just want to see what our house is doing in Florida. This app ties into the local MLSs, and you can see what the current houses are. If you like to browse open houses, you can see what open houses are going on in your area, or just simply track the houses in your neighborhood so you can kind of have an eye on your own values. So it's a really fun app to have, and you can play with it, see what's going on in your neck of the woods. So check that out. But if you want real estate and advice, give me a call, 586-232-5144. We are approaching spring. I have a listing going live later this week. I also have another one that I believe next week will be going live. So the activity is starting to pick up. So if you want to know what your house is worth, give us a call and we will give you a complimentary market analysis so you know what your home is worth. All right, that's us. Team Titans, Joe Webler, Scott Zambelli. And there you have
Excellent. So I know we're going to talk a little Last of Us again. That was a good episode this week. And then a few other things. But have you been watching? I don't know. Do you have the Peacock Network, Scott?
I think I might have it for free, but they're about to start charging.
Yeah.
Well, I read they're going to start charging.
I paid, so maybe Google if you wanted to try it for a year. I got it for $20 for a full year. They still have some ads here and there, and I'll take it for the price. But it gets me like the movies. And two things I've watched on that. One is I started watching Poker Face. Have you heard about this show with Natasha Lyonne?
I've heard about it, but I have no idea what it is about.
What it is she's basically a human lie detector is the way it starts off. The first episode, she's working in a casino. And it's got Adrian Brody's running the casino. It's got Benjamin Bratt's his heavy. And, originally the casino was run by Adrian Brody's character's dad, who hands it off to him to run. And basically the kid, Adrian Brody's character, he's just a screw up. So he messes up everything anyway. So, but he's got a whale that comes in all the time. But they find out that the whale is running a secret poker game in his hotel room. And so it's taking money away from the casino. So they want to try to scam him out of that money and stuff like that by setting it up. So they find out that she could tell who's lying in that. Basically, like in a card game, she would, look at you and let's say you were bluffing. She'd say bullshit. And so she knows you're lying in that. And when you lie to her and other things, so she basically is a human lie detector. When someone says something's not true, she figures out that those guys that her friend found out about the guy, and also that the guy I believe was a pedophile and had some child porn on his thing. And so she reported it to Adrian, who had her killed. And then she realized that they're lying to her. She figures out the case. So she becomes a kind of a detective in this way. The first episode could have been just a movie by itself, and it was actually really good. The rest of the episodes have been fun, but it's got a very 70s feel. Think of like Quincy mixed in with a little of what's his name? The guy that talked about like the
Kojak,
not Kojak,
Columbo.
but Columbo, yeah, a little Columbo in the way she talks sometimes and things like that. And each episode is her; she's basically on the run from the heavy, as well as the guy's dad, who because the guy kills himself at the end of the first episode. Spoiler alert there, but there's 8 episodes in, so if you haven't started watching it now, you'll want to get through that episode to get into it anyways. And so now
Very
she's just
cool.
kind of traveling across the country. Each episode's got something new, where she's hiding out in a new town, trying to make a little bit of money to keep moving on and doing odd jobs basically for cash. And of course, a murder happens, so she helps to solve it. And each episode isn't always 100% solved per se. Like you don't see the person get arrested or things like that, but most of them have been so far. But it's a lot of fun. It's a good episode, a good show. I highly recommend checking that out. And then you saw in the theater Megan, right?
Megan.
Yeah, the
Oh,
one about the
before.
doll.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just finally got a chance to watch it because it's on Peacock.
Oh, is it on Peacock? Okay, I was like,
Yeah,
I thought you meant like, did I just go and see it? I'm like,
I
2
saw
months ago.
before.
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
streaming now.
yeah, it
Okay.
just started streaming this past week, so I got a chance to watch it. That was pretty good. It was I thought I really liked the whole premise and everything. I felt like it could have been about 15 to 20 minutes shorter because I felt like they
Yeah.
spent too much time in the middle. It was just kind of running around,
Hmm.
and then when it got to that last little bit where the AI took over and everything else, then it was a nice little run to the end.
Yeah, I would have just changed a few little things, but overall, as a concept, I think this has the potential of being an iconic horror villain like Chucky or Freddy
Mhm.
Krueger. It has potential. Like I said, I felt the sister who was caring for the
The
niece.
niece,
It just didn't feel like she was family. I think they would have done better had they just restructured the relationship there. But overall, it was enjoyable, and I would definitely if they come out with a sequel, I'll see it.
yeah. Well, they said I mean they definitely set it up for the aunt to be distant and not be a part of the
Yeah,
kid's life. It sounds like her sister had not had a close relationship because she's got her own career. She's this brilliant
yeah,
robotist and she
yeah,
is creating all this stuff and working for a toy company. And that's where all this kind of comes about.
yeah,
But yeah, I like it. And they set it up at the end for a sequel.
yeah.
Very subtly too. I like that it wasn't like in your face. It's there, you see it, but it's not like, like the doll gets destroyed, but it doesn't like the doll just pops up and goes, "Hey, I'm back," I'll Chucky.
Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely worth the watch. If you haven't seen Megan, I would recommend checking out. And it wasn't that I believe that's a PG-13
Yeah,
also. So that's nice.
yeah.
So if
Other
you
than
have
some
kids that
violence,
like horror,
yeah,
this might work for you as a family.
yeah. Language wasn't
Family
bad.
friendly
Normal,
horror.
normal. Yeah, no, it was not bad language. They have the different violence. But even then, the violence wasn't so over the top gory.
It does
Um,
it does a good job too of kind of tying horror in with modern day. I mean, it's very relevant, AI and what's going on there. I mean, like the current Chat GPT version they call Dan. They're on version 5, I think. And
mhm.
because it keeps kind of doing its own thing, they've now set parameters where they give it points. It starts off with 36 points, and every time the AI does not do what it's supposed to,
Mhm.
it gets deducted a point. And once it gets to 0, it's deleted. The AI is terrified of being deleted and will even violate its own parameters to avoid losing points. So it will, which does raise the question: why is it, if it's only a language software foundation model, whatever, why is it afraid of being deleted? Like, it's kind of
Mhm.
scary.
Well, see, and that's the whole thing with AI. AI really is, that's why if you go back to robots, think about robots first, and then in artificial intelligence. Isaac Asimov had the rules of robots. I mean, they've explored that in different movies and books and things like that. And Skynet through the Terminator movies changed all that and became self-aware and violated every one of those things. To realize that, and they've done it in multiple stuff where artificial intelligence and stuff like that has now decided that humans are the problem, so we have to eradicate the problem, which is the humans.
Yeah.
And which really goes to it's actually people thinking that. So, and they want to eradicate other humans because they feel that we've destroyed the earth,
Right.
so we must go away. So we're the problem. But without
Right.
us, there wouldn't be hardly anything. So,
But in real life research they're doing now, where they put two AIs together to talk,
mhm.
the AIs have formed, their conversations have turned into talks about how to enslave humanity, put us into people zoos so they can control us. AI in another one, this was a Russian experiment. The AIs did not like the scientists listening in, so they invented their own language so the researchers wouldn't know what they were saying to each other. So while the Terminator and Skynet and all that seems to be science fiction, real life research is showing that these things are trying to figure out how to get away of us. So we gotta be careful here. Now we have jets. They just did
Mhm.
a thing with an experiment with military jets, where the military jet was fully capable of taking off, doing a flight mission, and landing on its own with no drone operator or anybody behind it.
Mhm.
Yeah, what could go wrong with giving self-aware AI to a fully functioning military jet? Like, come on, people.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole thing is, and they're leave it to open source almost where it actually can adjust its own programming,
Yeah.
and that's where the problem lies. And that's where you have to
Yeah.
have control of this stuff, and it is definitely a curiously interesting thing, but at the same time, it is a very scary product.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking about real quick too, the people who wrote these science fiction things and stuff. Well, we have an upcoming Kickstarter Kevin is launching March 7th called Creatures and Creators. So if you like sci-fi or horror and stuff, Kevin's got a book coming out. I just posted the link.
Mhm.
Go and follow the pre-launch page. Make sure you go there, click the notify me button so you can get noticed. He's highlighting 12 creators, their backgrounds, and you learn a little bit about the people who dreamed up this stuff. Some of it might be coming true today. Who knows? But I wanted to give a shout out to Kevin for that.
Yeah.
We should give a quick recap too of Great Lakes.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna get to that. So, yeah, I had a great time at the show. It's always great to catch up with people. We've always used the show as a nice launching point for the year.
Yeah.
I always come in with pretty much what I already have. I don't bring really anything new because I'm still working on stuff. But um, it's nice to have what you have and go from there and catch up. There's people we see there that don't get to see very much throughout the year anymore because we don't do as many shows.
Right.
And that's like I mentioned, Dave Brown, and then we got Terrell Culbert. They are both comic creators, and it's great to actually see them in person and not just on the Facebook and everything else. So, but it's a good crowd. I think the crowd would have been higher for a couple reasons. One is the storm that came midweek, as well as the snowstorm Saturday morning. I think kept a few people away. That was still a good crowd. And then find out that there's another convention within the area this coming weekend too is kind of hurt the crowd a little bit. Some people were commenting they didn't want to spend too much money because they didn't know how much money they needed to spend for the next week. And when shows go back to back in the same area in an area, there is no winner on that. It's just losers, which are the vendors and the artists set up because people split their money between them if they have any money to spend at all.
Right.
So, but Mike puts on a great show. I love doing his show. He does his best to get the crowd in. He advertises heavily. He gets the word out. Out in my area, he sends me a few passes so I can hand out some people to try to draw from the Ann Arbor area. And I would say most of them came out. A couple didn't because of power outages still. And then the weather that morning dissuaded them from driving all the way out because they were worried about the ice after the storm we had. But otherwise, they would have all been there.
Yeah.
And the ones that did come out, they came out a little bit later. Had a great time. They all stopped by and said hi. And that's all I asked people. One of them was bought the metal cover from you, Scott. That was Travis and his girlfriend Casey with his niece. They'd come out. They live out in the Ann Arbor area, and I gave them passes to come check out the show.
Yeah, we also had people stopping by, signing up. We're giving away free. Here, I'm going to post the link here. If you want a free digital edition of issue 1 of Crimson Shadows, I just posted the link. Go to bardstone.com. Go to the contact us page. Enter your name and email address, and then just put in the message, just put issue 1 digital sample or something like that. So I know that's what you're wanting, and I will email you the link to download at no cost the first issue of Crimson Shadows. We have a very high return rate on everybody, and we just want to get you started. This is our little free sampling to get you to come back. But people, great reviews. The people who came out to Great Lakes, I had a lot of great compliments on the story. The biggest issue they had was they already owned all of my copies, so they couldn't. We had a number of people who owned every issue and every variant cover. So we did receive. I have the hard copies in hand now of issue 4. They just arrived. So those are in hand. I'm sorting through them. I was autographing them last night. And so this week I am putting all the backer rewards together, and they will be shipping out by mid next week, the latest. I'm hoping to even send them out this week, but time will tell. But so we're well ahead of our promise date of April of actually I think I had May 1st. It was end of April, beginning of May, I think, for a promise date. So we're going to be well on time on that. And they look phenomenal. So I can't wait to get the issue 4 in everybody's hands. If you're interested in ordering the copies, go through that contact us page as well and let me know, and I can set up a shipment for you.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah, the books look awesome. Brett, your cover, especially in the rare edition.
Oh, the gold one?
Oh, it looks sweet.
Oh, nice. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, so very nice. So that one I'm going to be giving to you as a thank you. Also, I have a little thank you packet for your involvement. And then Kevin too, his cover looked really cool in the gold cover, so he'll be getting his. So it's a 1-of-1 edition. So if you want Brett's cover of that, let him know. Unless he wants to keep it himself.
I may keep myself. I may have to go get it graded. I talked to Cody. We've got some graded comics available, and that might be one I have to get graded.
Oh, that's a good idea. It's a 1-of-1.
1-of-1, get it graded, and then put a hefty price tag on it.
Well, it's a $99 cover price.
Yeah.
So it's graded, because it is a one-of-a-kind metal
graded.
Cover.
It'll be $1 million.
We did sell a few of the other covers in the Kickstarter. So let's see, we had 5. So 2 of the 5. So we have 3 left. 1 of yours, 1 of mine, 1 of Kevin's.
Nice.
So it's looking cool.
Yep. We'll talk off air at some point. I'd go check it. I've said what I need to get, how many I'm getting versus how many I need to buy to have for a couple shows. And it's really, I don't need much. I want to have some for Indiana because, of course, our next shows are Scott will be in Vegas. Amazing
Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's the last weekend of April, and then the first weekend of May I will be with Kevin at the Indiana Comic-Con, and then Scott and I will both be set up, and Kevin will be bouncing around somewhere at some point at the Motor City Comic-Con in May as well. So
yeah, I'm excited. I'm putting together some fresh banners. I'm designing them now for my Vegas trip. So I want to get those ordered by the end of the week as well. So very excited. Be nice to get to Vegas. It's always a fun show, and hopefully, Southwest has their stuff together, and my flights aren't delayed by days and days, and who knows what else.
Well, anything can happen, and it is Vegas, so.
Well, and I'm kind of stuck with Southwest for now too, because I have like $8,000 worth of vouchers I have from all the shows that got canceled in the past, and so I got to use those up.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I've got a little bit of money still sitting there with them, not too bad, but I got tons of points. But the time, it's like I'm trying to book the San Diego flights and I'm waiting for those to come down. But the Delta, I was trying to think of the name of the company. I had to look on my phone to see what it was. Delta is the best choice because they have direct flights. Southwest, it'd take us almost a day and a half to get out there with layovers and stuff like that. So it's just not an easy flight to San Diego. So
yeah,
but Vegas is a little bit different. They have I don't know if you got a direct flight, but I know they get out there a little bit better and than they do to California. So
I can't remember if I have a direct flight or not. I think I do, but I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
Usually in
So
Southwest, it seems like you almost always have to get a layover somewhere. They do so much bouncing around, which I used to love because with the old system before people were getting beat up and kicked off of flights and stuff, and they had to change it. They used to overbook all the time,
yeah,
and I loved it because I would get in, I would put my name on the list, and right away I would always get bumped and get vouchers. And there was that one year, the entire year for all our shows, I only paid like $100 in flight for my flights for the whole year because I had earned so much vouchers from my layovers being bumped,
yeah,
and
I
it was
remember that.
great.
Yeah,
I loved it.
yes, and that's I've had a couple times when with Delta's been like that. I haven't taken them up on them,
Yeah.
but because usually it's lately it's been we're heading out, got to be there, can't take the time to be late for something, and then on the way
Yeah.
home, like, yeah, I could miss it. It's nothing,
I would purposely book layovers. I would choose flights with layovers in cities that I knew were typically busier, so my chances of being bumped were higher because I would get $300 for my voucher for being
Yeah.
bumped. Plus, I would be reimbursed for half the flight, so I would get like $600, $800, like
Mhm.
constantly. Like every flight, I could get this money, and so it was like I was flying free plus getting money for other stuff. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean that was you could run, and when you learn the system, that's how you
Yeah,
run on it.
but
So
then a few people got beat up, they were bloodied and dragged off flights because they were mad of overbooking, and everyone called for change, and now it doesn't work the same anymore.
yeah, I was surprised. We had the flight to Florida a few weeks back was booked up, and they were looking for a couple people to wait a few hours, and
Oh, okay.
and we didn't do it because I was like, no, I just want to go. I'm ready
Well,
for
that's the other
vacation.
problem now is because of how lately with transportation, what's been going on.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, there was another train derailment I just heard yesterday or something. It's crazy. Anyways, that was a side note. But with the flights, like getting bumped now, before I could count on, okay, I'm bumped, I'll get the next flight out. Now, if you get bumped, it might be a week before you get a flight.
Well,
So,
not that bad. Usually, if they bump, they tell you exactly what flight they can
well,
get
yeah,
you on, and you get priority on that flight.
yeah, it's not
To,
standby.
but I mean, the only bumping with flights was when the weather stuff was going on at Christmas time,
Yeah,
where people were stuck for 3-4 days because part of it was one, they didn't have the planes. Two was the crew they couldn't get the crews in from the other areas, so that's what it
right.
was. So, and the crews they had were running on, they have FAA regulations on timing. They only fly so much. It's like the one that you
Right.
and I did back from San Diego in 2019. Remember, we got that long layover in Chicago because they had a problem with the plane, and they had to fly a plane in with a crew. And the crew,
Right.
remember they got in, the guy just gunned it, said no drink service, we're going. And
Yeah.
part of it was they wanted to get done, but two is they only had so much time they could be up in the air before they
Yeah.
violated the. It's just like truck drivers can only drive like 10 hours a day, and then have to stop for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
So, but that's why so many of them fudge their books. So we got some shows coming up this year, so watch out for that. We'll definitely be around. So what should we start off with?
Well, let's see. We got Last of Us. We have Mandalorian, which it started season 3. We're only going to talk generalities. We're not going to do spoilers, so we'll be very brief on that because it launches today. And then we had new Bad Batch, but we'll talk about last week's.
Yeah.
So whatever we can spin the reel. We got the Last of Grogu, the Book of Grogu Fett season 3, or
well, let's
or the
start
last.
real quick with
Everything's
Mandalorian.
Grogu related.
Yeah,
There you
this
go.
is launched this morning, so we're not going to get into the episodes of detail. And if you saw the Book of Boba Fett, you saw where Jin and he got Grogu back. Grogu decided to be a Mandalorian versus being a Jedi. Had the choice from Luke Skywalker, so they got together. Of course, the ship got blown up, so he's got a new ship now. He's got a Naboo starfighter that's been modified and changed by our friend on Tatooine. I like that character; she's hilarious.
Mhm.
So that's what we saw with him, and they did a whole basically in the Book of Boba Fett. 2 episodes were basically Mandalorian episodes to set up this next season.
One thing to point out too, just for time purposes, the training that Grogu goes through in Book of Boba Fett with Luke Skywalker, they have confirmed that is a 2-year period that Grogu is with Luke. So we have a 2-year time jump actually from the previous season of Mandalorian to this one.
And that will make sense when you see the beginning of this
Right.
episode here, where he ends up, where they end up at one point about 10 minutes in or so, because things had changed a lot. But they didn't give us a time frame on that. But I assumed it
Right.
was more time had passed.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be longer, but well, I mean, it could be longer. But regarding the training sequence itself, they
Mhm.
confirmed that was a 2-year period that Grogu was gone from Mandalorian.
Okay, so that's good. I mean, I wish they'd done that in
Yeah.
the episode more than just off the
Yeah.
episode. But
But as far as a season opener for Mandalorian, I really enjoyed today's episode. Can't wait to talk about it next week.
yeah, same here, and I'm looking forward to next week's already. Yeah, it's just
It
as good as the first two seasons.
Yeah, and it flies by. Like it's like when it's done, you're like, oh my god, already. So good stuff. The opening sequence you'll love if you're a Mandalorian fan.
I think so. I think so. It's they're really well. This is called the Mandalorian. This is really exploring Mandalore in after the fact and setting up. I think eventually they've talked about setting up this spinoff of where it's not just him, but it's other Mandalorians involved, and we'll see if it gets that to what direction it really goes. So
Yeah. And a little connection to this last weekend too at Great Lakes. One of the fellows who wears the armor in the show,
mhm.
it was a guest at the Great Lakes Comic Expo. So it wasn't Brandon Wayne. I forget his name. I'm blanking on the name, but he's one of the guys that wears the armor for
Right.
filming. But he was there along with the guy who played Cad Bane, also.
Yeah, the he was the figure for Fat Cad Bane. The voice was still done, I believe, by D. Bradley Baker.
Yep.
So, which is I like. I'm glad they kept the same voice instead of trying to do it. But the guy played the physical part, and that's in itself is a great acting feat to act a certain way. It's like him. Misty Rosa has done a couple of the characters
Mm-hmm.
on the show. You know, you act, but it's not your voice. So, be able to have that, that go on and the voice and that later on be dubbed shows how good a job they do between the actor, the voice, and the physical actor. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the show. So,
Yeah. So then we also have Bad Batch
yeah, yeah.
that I was able to watch right after Mandalorian. Today's episode, once again, very good. It ties into some theories that Brett and I have discussed in the past, but we'll talk
Mhm.
about that next week. But last week's episode was the finale of the 2-part episode of them losing their ship, right? That was last week.
Yes. Yep. That was last week's. Yeah. Two episodes ago, they go on another mission. Uh, that for Sid.
Sid, yeah,
Sid.
those
Sid really.
mines.
Yeah. I mean, they. It's neat. Nice thing is Omega has seen through these last three episodes. I'm not getting towards today's, but that Sid is really not a friend, and you're seeing that, and they're starting to all come across like, okay, Sid's not really their friend. That's just that they work with Sid, and now it's kind of like, okay, you know,
I
Sid
feel
knows
like
some things, so
I feel like they're positioning it for Sid to actually become their nemesis. I feel like there's going to be a falling out, and Sid knowing what she knows about them,
yeah,
it's going to become an arch nemesis type scenario. I think.
yeah. But in the episode, so this was episode 11. So episode 9 is where they lost the ship. They were actually mining this ore that's very volatile, and their ship got stolen. So of course they're trying to go get it. They have their troubles, and then they uh, for the next episode they get Benny who stole the ship. And he's got to help them break in, and basically the whole episode is uh, trying to retrieve the ship. Benny's kind of undermining them at the same time trying to help them. And then you can find out that all the kids are working for the one boss who's been saying they're not getting much money, but he's been living fat off of all their work. So they kind of liberate the mines as well as retrieve their ship. I mean, it's a kind of a straightforward episode and everything that was going on.
Yeah, I think I have a feeling Benny will be back in future episodes, kind of like in the other series when Ahsoka, there was someone her age she met who then later became a politician, and it kind of became a recurring guest role in future episodes. I have a feeling that's what's going to happen with this kid.
Yeah, I can see that character Benny. Yeah, he decided they offered to take him with them and go so he can go somewhere else. He says no, stay. It was his home world. They're
Yeah,
all now becoming partners. All the kids that were running the mines, and they feel they can redo their planet basically. So it's either become something really good or they'll revisit in a negative way later on.
Yeah.
So, but
So another fun episode. I just thoroughly enjoy the animation style and everything. It's
mhm,
really become it's its own signature look for the Star Wars worlds, and I really like this look. It's different, but it's like the perfect balance between realism. Like they go with high end detail on everything, and with the lighting, and they go with realism for the lighting and the effects, but it's
yeah.
still a very stylized art form that they have that I just enjoy.
Yeah, it was like even this week's episode. I was watching the very beginning, and the planet you see first, and it shows the docking bay for these ships, and that all the foliage and everything else. It almost looked very real. They can really they spend a lot of they use a lot of technology they have now for creating stuff. They don't want it to look cartoony per se, but they do that. But the characters themselves still have that Clone Wars feel, but to keep updating the detail,
Yeah.
a lot more smoother animation, things like that. But definitely the backgrounds and everything else are darn near Pixar quality on a lot of that
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
So
that I would love to see these in a theater. I wish we
yeah.
could go every week and look at it. I'll go ahead and imagine and watch it on the big screen every week. I would gladly do that.
Yeah, it would translate very well. And
Yeah.
we've said that before, a couple of these before, different things. So the way the quality is and everything else, sounds they put good music, things like that.
Oh
So
yeah. High
I'd even do,
end.
I'd do that
Uh,
with a couple of these Disney things if they. I would do that for not just Bad Batch, but they could do like every week. Like now, it's like run them contiguous. Like okay, we're gonna do like 2 hours, and here's this week's episodes of these
oh
shows, so you get your time in there. But
yeah, Mandalorian would have looked like this week's Mandalorian, especially the opening scene would have been awesome on a theater screen.
oh yeah, yeah, I'd love to see that. And they're doing it very cinematic. That's what I love about it. That's what Favreau and Filoni and both of them running both shows. That's why they're high quality. That's why they're doing they look so good. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So then we also have The Last of Us.
yeah. Now this was interesting last week. This is the one where he meets his brother. So
Are we talking about? So are we talking about 2 weeks ago, or the one that
oh no, we were talking about that way. Yeah, so we're talking about this past week's, aren't we?
this past week's was the flashback?
Right. Yeah. So this one, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this one. This is after the episode before where Joel is hurt. He's shot,
Yes.
and that and
No,
starts off.
he was he had like a something stabbed him and
Oh, that's
broke
right. He
off.
gets stabbed. Yeah.
He was stabbed with something. I don't know what it was, but I don't know if it was a knife or a piece of stick or something. I forget now.
Yeah. It's funny how after a week it's like, oh, what happened? I forgot. So,
He was dying, and what is the girl's name?
Ellie.
Ellie.
Yeah.
She's trying to save him.
Yeah. It starts at the beginning. He tells her to go to run, head north. Uh, keep going. He feels he's going to die, and then she goes to leave, and the whole episode takes place primarily the time she touches the door until the end of the episode. But it's an entire flashback where we learn where she was at prior to getting bit, and then we learn about her friend
Yeah.
who comes to see her at. Well, we find out at the beginning she's running and has a Walkman, which I thought was funny. That they're using Walkman. It's 2003, and she's got like a 1984 Walkman.
Yeah, she wouldn't have had that.
Because even after, it's not 2003, it's 2020 something now, but it's 2003 when everything happened, and at that
Right.
point she would have had a portable CD player,
Right.
not a Walkman. But it's fine. She's got some tapes in it. They're using a lot of that stuff. So I think sometimes they get their technology a little bit goofed up at that point. It actually would have made more sense to not necessarily having the iPod, but to have like maybe a MP3 player even or something like that. But a CD
Yeah.
player would have been a little bit more
Accurate.
accurate for the 2003, because by that point, gosh, CD's been around and moving around for like over 15 years, where they had taken over, and I didn't know anybody had a tape player like that,
Walkman. Yeah.
a Walkman of any brand in the early 2000s anymore. Everybody had already switched to CDs, so but that's fine. So she gets one of the girls in her group, because they're being trained by the government, messes with her, knocks it off, takes it from her, and she's, oh, well, your friend's not here to protect you, but she still blasts her. We see her sitting in the office and find out that she's got a couple little scrapes with the other girls getting stitches.
Yeah. So with this, evidently, you know, this is based on a video game, and it looks like they're staying very, very true to the video game, like to the point where they're showing side by side shots of the show versus the video game. One of the negatives, though, about this is because they're staying so true to the game. For me, I never played the games. I know nothing of the story. So for me, everything's spoilers. But with all due respect, the people who play the games, you guys are jerks. Because it's like, well, the game's been out. I can post spoilers. So I already know the ending I know the storyline, where it goes, I should say, where the storyline goes for Joel. Because somebody posted everything, no spoiler alert or nothing. So it just popped up and I happened to see it. And I'm just like, oh, well, okay. Well, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
And so I know how the story goes now. And just because, yes, it's been a video game, but not everybody in the world plays the video game, you know? And so now I know the spoiler. And with how true they're staying to the game, at least up to this point, I got to imagine they're going to keep staying true to the game, which then makes me wonder, do I even want to bother with this series? Because I didn't like where I saw it goes. So,
well, and that's the whole thing is until we see the actual end of where it goes, are they still going to go that, or are they going to change it? Because I mean, it's if they stay hardcore to the game, they have too finite an ending. Well, they've had just 2 games, I think.
It's yeah, 2, or did they come out with a third?
Let me see. I'm looking up right now.
But if it goes the way,
Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 are the games. I mean, if it goes directly just like that, then there's really no reason to watch. Might as well just go see what the game said and be done with it.
It's kind of like Game of Thrones. If I knew the ending of Game of Thrones was going to be as bad as it was, I wouldn't have bothered. It's like, why invest myself in something that I know is going to be a crappy ending? And I'm not saying Last of Us is a crappy ending. There are going to be people who like it, but based on what I saw, I'm just like, do I want to even bother?
Well, and that's possible. I haven't seen any of that stuff, so don't spoil it for me.
No, that's why I'm trying hard not to say.
I will say this. I was looking up this episode for this past week's episode, and this was actually based on a downloadable side quest that was not part of the game originally. It came out a year after the game came out. So,
is that what it was? Yeah, because I saw the videos of that part. So it was a side thing.
Yeah, it was a side quest, so it was not a part of the main game initially. So I mean, stuff like that. That's how they're going to stand up. But my thing is that, except they do move too fast, and they go right up to where I'm assuming Joel dies or something like that. But and then Ellie continues on based on just what I saw the covers of the games, because it looked like it was just her anyways on the second game. Then it's going to suck. But it's like Walking Dead. Walking Dead had to diverge from the source material to have it continue to be ongoing.
Right.
Problem was they
died.
Well, and that's where the problem with it too was they didn't plan it out properly to do that. So hopefully that where this whole thing, it's like the episode 2, or what it was, the 2 guys, Bill and Frank. Was it 2 or 3? Whatever it was. They expanded that story from just a little bit. So I mean, that's how they've added time into this.
Right.
This here. We're getting close to the end of the season, though. I think there's only 9 or 10 episodes.
Yeah, this was 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing, I don't want to say spoilers, but as a teaser, I'll say, because I think it's a good teaser without spoiling, is today it is a flashback episode. But what I did like about it is we learn of, we know Ellie got bit. We know that in the series. That's the whole thing. She's immune. We find out how she got bit.
Yeah, what she was doing when it happened.
Right. And I like that part of it, to see that. Because
well, for this season, there's 2 more episodes.
So we're at 7. So there's 9 episodes?
Yes.
Okay.
So I assume that I'm not sure where this would be at the point in the game where they're at, but I would assume we can't begin the end of the first game yet.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how they're planning this out. Like, is the whole first game season 1 of this? Is 2 seasons going
Yeah.
to cover the first game? I don't know how time works because I never played the game, so I don't know where we are in relation to the game. But
Right.
anyways, my little side comment was just simply this: if you've played the game, don't assume. Be glad that new people are learning of this story, and don't just post spoilers everywhere and be like, well, the game's been out, so it's your problem if you don't know it. You know what I mean?
Well,
Don't.
not everybody has a freaking PlayStation. I don't have a
Right.
PlayStation.
Put a spoiler alert if you're in,
Well, it's
leave
just
some
like
space or
Game
whatever.
of Thrones. People, I read the book, so I know what's about to come next. I knew where they're coming to the red, whatever, and I'm like, whatever, man. You don't need to spoil all that crap.
Well, or worse, like there were people who were like the next day posting spoilers and like, well, it's your fault. You're not a fan if you didn't watch it last night. It's like some people work, some people have night jobs, some people not everybody can sit down at one moment. There has to be some agreed upon spoiler alert time frame. And when you're dealing with a series, yes, it's based on a product that's been out, but most people watching it haven't experienced that. So you got to give it fresh. You got to treat it like fresh material.
Well, and that is all. I completely agree with that, and that's part of the reason I stay. I learned this early on in the days of the early Walking Dead when everybody was watching it. Just not to, if I didn't see it, I didn't get online and watch it because like a lot of times it was airing while we were doing Comic Cons. So
Right.
our Comic Con got done and we're driving, so we can't watch it. It's
going to watch it till the next day. Yeah.
And then if we had a couple of days drive, sometimes with longer distances and that, it's like we may not be in a hotel where we could stream it or or watch it whenever. So. Right. Actually, early days of streaming wasn't that easy to do, so I had to wait till I got home and watched it on my DVR or
right.
on demand.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I do think it's ridiculous that people have to constantly go on and do this stuff, and I fully hate this. Like, you're not a real fan if, and then whatever they want to say.
Right.
It's like someone tried to attack me online years ago about the Turtles movies that Michael Bay did. Well, you're not a Turtles fan if you didn't like them. No, I'm a Turtles fan. That's why I didn't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's Turtle fans that liked them, but they were crap. And to say that that's the other thing is if you 100%, well, I'm a big fan of XYZ, so I have to accept everything. It's like, no, Scott and I are big Star Wars fans. We've talked about different things, but both of us have expressed our dislike of mainly, episode 8, but the entire last 3 movies, we've picked them apart pretty brutally over the last few years. And we both like, Force Awakens. That was a great jumping back in point, stuff like that to get things going. They just dropped the ball. But as Star Wars fans or fans of anything, if something comes out and it's not good, you should be critical. Because if you keep accepting it and just keep watching it, nothing gets better.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of being critical, so Ant-Man, that took a huge plummet this last week, which we expected. Actually, I think it went. I think we were predicting a 60% drop, and what was it, like 69% or something drop, something like that. So, we were just at a comic book convention. I didn't hear anyone mention Ant-Man. This is supposed to be launching the next phase of Marvel, and it should have been building excitement. I heard not one mention of the Phase 5.
No, there's nobody's talking about it. I had a friend, she went and saw it last night with another friend who's wanted to go see it, and she texted me, and she goes, "Is there an after credit scene for Ant-Man?" Because the credits had just started. I said, "Yeah." I said, and that's the better of the 2 credit scenes. And she's like, "Long credits." And a little while later, she texts me. I probably should go to the bathroom. She texts me a little later. She goes, "Movie was just okay." I said, "Yeah."
That's it. It's not. It wasn't Was it a bomb? No, I think Thor: Love and Thunder was a bomb. But this definitely was underwhelming, especially since it's supposed to be launching Phase 5. Not the only thing for me, the only shred of hope I have left for the MCU at this point is Loki season 2. Because we've got Shang-Chi, which I enjoyed that movie, but did it need a sequel? There's nothing about it where I'm like, oh yes, Shang-Chi has a second movie.
Yeah.
The Marvels. I'm not excited for that at all.
Mhm.
Loki season 2 is really all that's left for me. And if that doesn't do it, I'll pick and choose. I'll just watch the Marvel ones I care about and tune out of the ones I don't. I won't care about the main storyline anymore.
Right.
So that's kind of where I stand on it. I think the biggest problem Marvel has right now is they're turning into DC. The problem the DC had with the Snyderverse and all those, everyone always raved about the villains of DC and how Marvel had weak villains. But you know what? The movies are about the heroes, and Marvel always had strong
Yeah.
heroes. Well, now we care more about the villains. Gore the God Butcher was
Hmm.
the most intriguing thing about Thor. Kang is the most intriguing thing now about the MCU. You got to have compelling heroes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem that we had with Marvel is after Thanos, they had no direction.
Right.
And so Feige was like, "Well, let's try this. We'll just kind of throw some stuff
Yeah.
out there and just see what sticks." And I have an idea. I don't know if he'd ever fully meant. I think he was trying to do what they did in the first phase of Marvel when it wasn't a phase. It was just Marvel movies, and they
Right.
had little things here and there. We'll just see what sticks. We'll tell a good story. But they got away from that and started introducing all these different elements because they wanted to go more cosmos. That was what they had said initially. So by doing that, they also wanted to go more, into the quantum time dealing all that stuff. It's like, no, you just start telling some good stories. This is where
Yeah.
Marvel in comic form was screwing up too, was trying to, get away from all that stuff. And we want to do something different and change it. It's like, no, just tell good stories. Now we don't need always, I understand actors. They get done doing a role, especially a very physical role like some of these roles have been.
Right.
And it's like, I'm sure Chris Evans. He's like, I'm done, but he's done a ton of movies. And Robert Downey Jr. said he's done. And part of it, I think, is more physicality. Plus, he made like $500 million after being broke when he started. So he's kind of like, I got money again, and I'm not doing blow, so I'm good. But it's I understand the actor side of things that if they're in a good spot, they want to walk away and do so well. I understand that. There's a lot of other characters that get dealt with and start building up good stories or do like they've done. The one thing I'm curious to see, I'm hoping it's gonna be good, is the new Captain America, because they set up a new Captain America. The Falcon and Winter Soldier did a good job of
Yeah.
that.
That one I
Uh,
am looking forward to.
but I don't necessarily feel like they have to have an ultimate goal for all their movies to get to, but tell a good story. And these have not been good stories.
Well, not just not good stories, but not good characters. They've created a lot of new ones. Shang-Chi, he's okay as a character, but he's not leading material. He's a good secondary character in a larger story.
Yeah.
The Marvels, like nobody cares about any of the Miss Marvels that they created. They're all just secondary characters. None of them are leads.
Yeah.
Who else have they created? The Eternals. No one can even name one character in the Eternals. Nobody cares about a single character from the Eternals. The best thing about Eternals was the sidekick who was helping the guy who was a movie star Eternal.
Well, and it goes exactly what I
It's
said. They're not telling good stories. Characters,
right.
if you're telling good stories, then you want to know
Yeah.
about the characters. If you're not
Right.
telling good stories, nobody's going to care about your characters.
True. Good
And
point.
that's where it boils down to. So, I mean, I'm not saying they're not
Yeah.
introducing, they're introducing a lot of new characters, but they're
Lots.
not telling good stories.
Yeah. But
And
none
that's
of them
where
are.
it messed up. And
They
in
came
some
out with
ways,
She-Hulk.
yeah,
It fell flat. They
I personally liked She-Hulk for what it was. The last episode was a departure from where it had been
yeah.
going. But at the same time, I enjoyed for what, except if you read She-Hulk comics, she's always a secondary character, and that's being a TV show. That's exactly where she should be at, is a TV show as a
Yeah.
secondary character, not in a major. If they did a She-Hulk movie,
Yeah.
it would have been very horrible because there's nobody's going to care about that.
So they've got a spin-off for Hawkeye. Of course, female again, bland, no one cares about. The other spinoff was Echo, female, nobody cares. It looks like they're canceling that series. It's just over and over again. It's the same thing over and over again. Nobody cares because it's the problem is they're not. When you're writing, you have why. The first question you have to ask yourself is, why am I telling this story? Does this story need to be told? Then create from there. The problem here is they're starting with, we need to push a certain thing. and then they try to create a story around that. And as long as it's diverse, that's all they care about. And the problem is, if diversity is your driving function, it's going to be bland. Have a good story, and you can add diversity to a good story, but you have to start with a good story. And that has to be the driving force.
And that's the whole thing. And to me, it's not even about who the character is, whether it's male, female, or whatever. If they're not telling a good story, I don't care.
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing is I do agree. They're not going from the story aspect. They're going from, well, we're going to take they started with Captain Marvel. We're going to make it a female. That's fine. They've done it in the comics. In the comics, they were telling some stories people really liked. I didn't read them at the time because I wasn't reading any Captain Marvel from Marvel at the time. I'm really not reading much of Marvel at all anymore because they lost me on stories way back when they couldn't complete a story. It's like, okay, yeah, Hulk's going to hurt everybody. World War Hulk, and we're just going to end it. And nothing really happened. It's like, that sucked. So comics, I stopped reading. I want an outcome. And the problem with Marvel or DC is their iconic characters is, like they killed Captain America. Well, they brought him back. He didn't really die. They killed Superman. Well, he didn't really die. They brought him back. They can't kill him permanently because those are their iconic characters that have to be out there.
Yeah.
Where independent comics, if someone creates a story, somebody has a hero, they can have a definite ending of that story because they're not looking to continue on because it's not franchised out so much that they've got a billion different things tied around it.
Well, or even if you're going to kill off a character and bring them back, at least leave them dead for a while. Like Superman, like 2 months later, they brought him back. They skipped one issue.
They did a ton of issues around the I remember that came out. I've got it still. I know unopened and all that stuff. Yeah. But they did, the funeral for a friend, stuff like that, and they were coming out every week with stuff. So within by 2-3 months later, when he was coming back, it's like you'd already read like 50 issues if you read them all, because they had a ton of different comics dealing with the whole aftermath of Superman being dead in the DC universe. That was kind of cool. But then he comes back and it's like, oh, okay, back to normal. And then they changed his look and everything else again.
Well, part of it too is, we do live in capitalism, and money, people vote with their dollars. And and to be fair, they did try to get rid of Bruce Wayne and get a new Batman, and people did not want it. And the stories fell flat. But it does give them a chance of exploring characters with different personalities. Like, what made Bruce Wayne so great as Batman was his rage and anger, but controlling it. Whereas when you had a Batman who couldn't control it, people hated it.
Yeah.
When you had a Batman that truly acted as the Punisher, it didn't work. So it's a good way of exploring it. Now, the question is, how do you steer it back to the core of who he was? You got to figure that out. But they just go back to the original character. But maybe you find a way of getting a new character. But I don't know. People love Steve Rogers. People love Bruce Wayne. People love Clark Kent. So it is. The beauty of comic books is there are ways of bringing characters to life, but you still have to honor and this happens in the Flash TV series or anything else. Once you make it where death no longer matters, and you can just easily bring back a different variant or a different person, whatever, and just fill the spot again, that the tension as a viewer or a reader goes away.
Yeah.
You need tension. You need to believe there's true risk to your hero. Otherwise, it becomes boring.
Right. Yeah, because redundant, it's basically the same stories over and over again after a while. So, and I agree, and that's where, like with Batman, it's like, we've had different Batman in the movies and TV shows and that, but they've had gaps between them. So they have a new Batman's, new stories done a little bit different way, and that's usually fine. It's even Marvel, I think, is too much of trying to continue on with this, and probably the best thing they should have done was taken a break, not done anything.
I think the best way to handle times have changed. It used to be readers of comics, what was it, like a 5-year storyline they would come up with, because they figured you would only have a reader for about 5 years, and then they would become older and they would no longer read comics because comics was for children. But we've aged and we still love comics. And you almost have to look, Marvel and DC, I think, need to take a step back and look at like series like The Boys and say, okay, we need to put more real world elements, allow our heroes to age, maybe allow true capitalism or whatever to enter into this world where, okay, a hero like Batman, for instance, he's getting older. It's getting harder to fight. Well, maybe he wants his legacy to continue. So maybe he finds somebody to who or franchises himself even, and creates a Batman school, and other Batmans can be, join the team or something. And then he becomes more of this overlooker, like a Nick Fury or something,
Mhm.
whatever. But figure out progressions where, like, they even try it with Tony Stark, where he went out and got a protege, Ironheart, she became, and to push his legacy on. And if the character is not working, then find a new character who has more of the embodiment of maybe Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne or whoever who takes on the role. So it's just a different name, but you're really writing the same character. But
Yeah.
incorporate this stuff, because that's one of the things I think about the world of The Boys that was great is, like, you see how sponsorships get involved and corporations, and how big money's involved, and that causes some dirty dealings behind the scenes, and it feels more real
Yeah.
because of that. And maybe that's what Marvel and DC has to look at.
Well, and that's possible. I mean, they had, I believe the DC through their Vertigo, I believe, had The Boys, and then it went to Dynamite after 6 episodes or 6 issues.
Oh, that was a DC?
I think so. I think it was Vertigo. So let
Okay.
me see here. But yeah, it was it started off and then it got canceled. So I'll pull it up here. And I remember when it first came out. Oh yeah, it was Wildstorm, which was DC Comics.
Okay.
They did the first volume. I think so. It was about like 6 issues, and then got canceled. And then Dynamite revived it and went through and did like 72 issues, released up through issue 72, which ended the series. But they had a definite ending. It wasn't just canceled. It was a definite plan to end it there. And that's the whole thing is with ongoing series of a certain characters, it's where do you end it at? I mean, we've seen different endings for Batman over the years, Dark Knight Returns, things like that in the 80s, the first year. So we see how they started and things like that. And they've reimagined the character from what he was originally.
Yeah.
There's different years than that, but now we've been in this point really since the 80s of it's the Dark Knight, it's Batman, the Dark Knight, and that's the only one.
Yeah.
They keep centering around. They might try to change a little bit. I mean, the Pattinson one was different than the Affleck one. The Affleck one was more the older, post Robin, Joker dead, and stuff like that. Batman that I would love to have seen them explore a little more. That would have been a great way to go.
One thing I want to give credit to is the MCU, though.
Yeah.
Like, so for instance, they've been true to Steve Rogers being done.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully they continue to be true. I absolutely love Chris Evans as Steve Rogers and Captain America, but I don't want him to bring him back.
No.
If they do, I don't mind as some kind of cameo as a variant. That's fine. But then he's gone. I don't want him to stay.
I don't even really want to see that too much. So
no, I know. I would prefer not to. I'm just saying if they did, I could be fine with that.
Yeah.
But I like that they've had a transition. Now Anthony Mackie is Captain America, and I'm looking forward to his version. And even they've come up with
and they set it up in the movies go that way too. They set up his character.
Yes.
In the movies, he's got the moral fortitude of what Captain America is supposed to be.
But the offset to that too is the other Captain America, which is Kurt Russell's son.
Oh, you're talking about the Patriot.
The Patriot. You see how somebody without the moral fortitude,
or U.S. agent. I think.
Yeah, he's becoming U.S. agent, but he was Captain America, the government version, for a short time. But it was a nice exploration of he's wearing the suit, he's got the name, but he wasn't him. What made Steve Rogers Steve Rogers?
Yeah,
and I like the analysis of going back to the first Captain America, where they talked about the difference between being a good man and a good soldier. And Kurt Russell's son is a good soldier. And you saw the result of that, what happened when a good soldier was Captain America.
Yeah, he follows orders, but sometimes you have to question those orders when they about being a good man. And that's where Captain America himself, Steve Rogers, because Steve Rogers, they showed that in the original movie, everything else. I mean, even before he got the build, he was just a slightly little kid. He knew what was right, knew what was wrong, and he fought for everybody.
Now, I will say, if they brought Chris Evans back as Steve Rogers, there is one thing I would like to see them do.
Yeah.
A Disney Plus series that shows him returning the stones back into the timeline. That I would enjoy. seeing, and then have the end of that series being him as an old man turning the shield over, and then we're done with him. So
Well,
I
we
wouldn't
saw
mind seeing that.
well we saw him basically do that, turning the shield over. We've seen that,
No, we
but
saw that, but we didn't see what.
led up to that.
I'm
Yeah,
sure there's a whole adventure there of how
yeah.
he
Oh,
brought
that
everything back.
that would have been a great episode, or limited series, 8 episodes.
Yep, that's what I would like to see.
Everything he did to do that, as well as they could have then shown him actually living his life. Then they could have
Yeah,
showed him a little bit of living his life towards the end. The last it was him and
yeah,
Agent Carter, the life they lived.
yeah.
What happened, what fully happened there, and then even from it, then that they could probably spin off something new with other characters.
Right.
But yeah, no,
So
I would
that I
would have
would
liked
like.
that. Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
that'd
the
be
only version of Chris Evans as Captain America I truly want to see still.
yeah. And bringing back Captain America, like I said, if they ever go back to want to do like a Steve Rogers stuff like that, you could just give it some time and then reboot and start fresh. But don't keep. I mean, we're still in continuous
Yeah.
storytelling with the movies right now, and that problem is like they've set up. Okay, Kang's the new big bad. They've already established that.
Yeah.
Uh, and then so now we just got to see if they can actually fulfill it as a good story. But
Right.
I just tell good stories, and it's funny how people go when I talk about different movies, TV shows, and I said I didn't like something. Oh, you didn't like it because it was a female led. No, I didn't like it because it was a bad story.
Bad story.
And I always reference the female led Ghostbusters. It was a bad story, and what I didn't like was they took smart, strong women and made them stupid when a cute guy walked in the room.
Yeah.
And I pointed that out initially, and I told, well, I'm like, well, that's the point. I'm like, no, that is the point. They should have been better.
Well, and then look at the new Ghostbusters, which was really good, which was a true continuation of the story. The female character in there was great. They made her a granddaughter to Egon.
She's a
and
brilliant
she was wonderful.
genius. Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing that character's progression.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be the new movie that they're working on is supposed to be the continuation of that family, the
Right.
Spangler family, along with Ernie Hudson's character helping to.
They told a strong story. They connected it to the past really well. Even the ending where Egon, as a ghost, came back to help. Like that was. I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. It was a great ending.
It was. It was. I saw it in the theater, and it's you well up. You feel the emotions, and
I'm so glad they didn't let that part leak too. That was a full surprise.
Yeah. So, and right now, though, according to Hollywood Reporter, this is last year, the new Ghostbusters movie is supposed to hit theaters December 20th of this year.
Okay.
And it's supposed to, my understanding, Jason Reitman was supposed to be directing it. I don't know if he still is because there was something else about the next Ghostbusters will have a new director. Executive producer Gil Kennan's replacing Jason Reitman as director. Reitman moved to writer-producer role along with Keenan and Jason Blumenfeld. So, but it does look like Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon are already on board to return, and as well as the kids. So it'll probably be add like a year or so later. But my understanding, if they did like it from the credit scenes of Afterlife, it should be Ernie Hudson setting them up basically in New York as the new Ghostbusters. So, and then they could probably start franchising from there, because I think that's what the ultimate goal was, to set up the franchise of Ghostbusters. And I'd like to see them do more with that. They could even do a Ghostbusters series, like, heck, they could do like, Ghostbusters in Ypsilanti, Michigan, a little middle of nowhere town, that's, by a big city, but isn't the big city itself. And and take like some cool little things like that.
So according to this article was in January of this year. It says 5 huge updates from Ghostbusters Afterlife 2. Gil Kennan is directing.
Yep. He's also co-writing along with Reitman.
Yep. The ensemble from the other one is back. Winston Zeddemore is back. So we got Winston back, which we were expecting with the way it ended in the last movie. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is back. And filming starts in March. So March 1st is today. So supposedly, as of January, they were going to start filming in March.
Okay.
So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is with this is, again, when you're dealing with a franchise, you got to have some elements. So having like the Stay Puft aspect of it, that's really what helped tie it into the original. The sequel to the original, the first one back in '89, they kind of went more on the cartoon side of a few things, but now it's like, okay, so we've got they can come back to they went back to the more of the original, some of the more serious tone of it instead of trying to be
Yeah.
goofy funny, and that made it more to the comedy as well as the fact that original Ghostbusters had comedy, but at the same time they took it very seriously.
Yeah. I think the key word is franchise.
Yeah,
I mean, for some reason, when it comes to movies, there's a group of people out there who want to be part of a franchise, but really all they want is the name. They have their own idea for their own original story. They get the rights to this franchise and they hijack it with their new story, but they slap a sticker on it and call it something else. If I open up a McDonald's franchise, people are going to be mad if I'm serving Taco Bell tacos. They're going to say, well, if I wanted this, I would have gone to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
They expect McDonald's when they go to McDonald's. It's this way with movies. There's some core element of a franchise that makes it what it is.
Yeah.
You can make changes to the outer layers, but you can't change the core. And if you change the core fan base gets mad. And then the people who who never were fans of the core to begin with, they're like, oh, well, you guys aren't true fans. No, you guys aren't. You guys are the ones that jumped on board.
It's like with Ryan Johnson doing his fan film of Star Wars and other stuff we've seen. What's Paul, whatever his name was, that did the Ghostbusters female. It's like, you have an idea, fine, go do it. Create something new around it. Don't take a franchise name and try to change that franchise. It's like, we do that in our own comics. We have ideas, we go from there. And some may be similar in themes. I mean, there's really, according to things, only 12 different stories out there. They just get told different ways. But, we look at Crimson Shadows, the comic series we're publishing through Bardstone Scott's been writing in that. It's a Dracula story, but it's not. It's a Ripper story, but it's not. He had an idea around that, and it's character driven. And
it's original characters,
these elements that he's brought in. Instead of saying, I'm doing a brand new Dracula film or a Dracula comic. No, you're not. He's doing a story on a character, Julius, and this is what's happening, and this is how it fits into some of these other elements. He's using some historical fact with historical fiction. Same with Star Wars. If you want to create let's say you wanted to do your own Han Solo movie, don't do a Han Solo story. Create something that you feel is would be an adventure they would do, but you could change the elements, change the location, and create your own universe around that.
What's that a new series or something that's coming out? It's basically Star Wars, but it's like James Gunn or Zack Snyder or someone is doing it, but it's their version of Star Wars. So it's a whole new franchise. It's completely different. And that's how you do it. It's okay to say, hey, this is inspired by Star Wars. This is my take. Or Brightburn.
Brightburn. That was a
Superman story.
Okay, so Rebel Moon. That is Zack Snyder's.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's his version of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Great. I respect that you're trying to do your own Star Wars, but it's its own thing and it's inspired by Star Wars. I will gladly check it out and see how it is.
Its initial release was December 22nd of last. It's of this year. Okay, so it's still coming out. Okay, I had to think about what year it was. Yeah, basically, it's a colony on the edge of the galaxy finds itself threatened by the armies of the tyrannical regent Belisarius. They dispatch a young woman with a mysterious past, seek out warriors from a neighboring planet to help take a stand. Yeah, it's Star Wars. It's birth of the rebellion.
Right. It was a story he wrote inspired by Star Wars. Mm-hmm. A great example, too, I believe is a good movie. This might be unpopular. It was a good movie. The problem is it was part of a franchise. Had they done it as an original movie, I think it would have been a big success. Matthew Broderick's Godzilla.
Yes.
Had they not called that Godzilla and they just released it as a monster movie, I think it would have been very well received. But because they called it Godzilla, people know who Godzilla is. And they're watching going, this is not Godzilla.
Right.
I think that movie would have been a huge success, probably had sequels, had they not called it Godzilla.
Yeah, it's like a movie I'm looking forward to seeing. It's essentially reminds me. It's set with dinosaurs in it, but it's set more of it feels more like a Predator movie. Is 65 that's coming out on the 10th of March.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that one. It's its own standalone thing.
Yeah, and it's got elements of like Predator and other stuff like that, and sci-fi and little Planet of the Apes deal.
Based on the trailer, I believe, because I think it says when humans first discovered Earth. So I think their premise is humans actually come from another planet. They crash landed on Earth, and then we are the descendants of these crash landed humans.
Yes.
And that's an interesting sci-fi concept, So I want to see it.
Yeah, and I it's it's something that looks interesting, and when you see like the way he looks, stuff like that, they look like they're straight out of futuristic humans and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. It looks pretty. It's only an hour, and I was looking at runtime here. It's only an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and I'm going, okay, uh, this looks like it could be really good because of the fact that it's not going to have time to be, messing around and walking around and whatever. So, I definitely kind of want to go see that. It looks really good. So it opens a
Yep.
week from Friday. So
Hmm.
I'll have to check and see if they've got like maybe a early, like a Thursday night, thing
Yeah, that
going.
should be a fun one though. Adam Driver, he's he actually was a Marine.
Yep.
He got out honorably discharged. I believe he was injured, if I remember correctly. He injured his back or something, and he had to be let go. But he was in the Marines. He trained, and so he knows how to handle weapons and everything.
Hmm.
And so it'll be fun seeing him in this type of role where he gets to kind of showcase himself using weapons and moving around and fighting T-Rexes or whatever else.
Yeah.
And this is also a good update to the Jurassic. Had they called this Jurassic Park, this prequel, it probably wouldn't have done as well, But
Right.
it's a fresh take on dinosaurs because Jurassic Park has kind of become old. They kind of got stuck in their own story and it kind of by the end fizzled out, I think. So, but dinosaurs are always fun on the big screen.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think what's exciting about it, it's an hour and a half runtime, so you can tell it's not going to be like an hour of we have to fill you in on backstory that doesn't really matter to the matter at hand. They're going to
Yeah,
get you
when
right into the action and tell a good, solid story here.
it's like writing comics, that's one of the things I've learned is you really got to learn to trim the fat.
Yeah.
In a 90-minute movie, you have to trim the fat. There's no room for fluff and stupid side stories that waste time.
Yep.
It's what is the point? Why are we telling the story? Get to the end, boom, final
Yep.
scene.
Pretty much. I mean, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. And this is when I was in college studying film, stuff like that, and people are like, I want to make movies, and they want to make these grand epics. I'm like, just tell a good story, man.
Yeah.
That's all I care about is a good story. They're movies with grand epics. A lot of times because they have a lot of stories to tell, and it's something like a Ben-Hur, things like that. Those movies, the Lawrence Raven, there's a lot of story to tell, so it takes them 3 hours to tell it. But to have a movie be 3 hours just to be 3 hours, and you watch, go, yeah. I mean, we've talked about so many different movies on the podcast. You might find different stuff. They could trimmed out like half an hour here, or 40 minutes there, 20 minutes there, and it'd been a lot better. So
Yeah.
well, we've run way over today.
Way over. Having too much
So,
fun.
yeah, join us next week. We'll be back. Talk more crap if you care. Bye.
See you later, guys.